Hey everybody, welcome to Rebellion Health Podcast, and super honored today to share someone with you that I've had the privilege of knowing for a really long time. It goes back to high school, and we did an episode a while back, and we decided instead of doing something remote, it would be a lot better and it would be a greater benefit to our audience if we actually did this in person and allow her to share her story, to tell you what she does, how she benefits so many women in particular, but men as well. And Andrea, I am so excited to have you on this podcast.
Thanks for giving me a second chance after my computer blew up on me the first time. It's honestly really fun to be back in Chattanooga. You know, I left high school and came here to play college softball, and I don't really get to step back in time that often. But when I do get here, it brings back a lot of memories.
Yeah, it's a little nostalgic for you.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
Especially living in the Southwest as long as we did, and now just being back in the South, living in Mississippi, you just kind of feel a little bit more at home when you come back to this area. You start seeing those rolling hills of East Tennessee.
I know.
It reminds me of where I grew up, which I'll always be grateful for.
Yeah. Well, we lived in Western Kentucky for 10 years, and for me, that was like getting back to this scenery, the landscape. It was like, oh my gosh, like I cannot wait to move back home, you know? So I totally get it. Southwest is beautiful. I mean, it's got its own, perks, but yeah, there's nothing like home. So one of the things I want to hear about your story, but one of the things that I want to talk about early on, just so people can engage, tell us what you do. Like what's your overall business focus, and how do you help women? And then we'll go back to why'd you even start doing this?
So I'm a holistic practitioner that specializes in analyzing blood work. And I really chose that path because that was something that was missing in my journey for many years. I was sick for a really long time, and nobody ever ran blood work on me. And by the time somebody did, I was actually on the mend at that point because I had kind of figured some stuff out on my own. So I think pain to purpose is really what led me down that route particularly. I also think spiritually, there's just such a symbolic thing about blood and the healing and what Jesus did on the cross and just the cleansing.
Right.
And I think just as a believer and as a Christian practitioner, I really want to make sure that that's always what people see when they work with me. So looking at blood work from a functional lens, we talk about conventional medicine a lot. And really over 50 years ago, there were a lot of really knowledgeable doctors that were studying to try to get ahead of cancer. And they were finding these functional ranges in blood work, and it really was for cancer research. But then there were some naturopathic, holistic medicine doctors out there that said, wait a minute, we're onto something here, because if we're trying to catch cancer early, aren't there other things that would precede that we could catch? And so I think just studying that, I was so intrigued that so many people are going in to get blood work done all the time, and they have it literally sitting in a portal or in an email or in their hands, and it says it's normal, but they feel anything but normal.
Right.
So I think that clarity of just giving them some answers through analyzing that, and then kind of creating a customized game plan to help them optimize their body. A lot of what you guys do here. And just looking at all those other nitty-gritty markers and trying to figure out what's happening underneath the surface. I really think the clarity part, you invited me to go to that conference in Atlanta back in January, and that was really life-changing for me. But clarity was a big thing that we talked about, and that's something that's a word I use very often in my practice, because I think blood work can bring a lot of clarity and really kind of clear the lens for people so they can see what's really going on. So I do a lot of other functional tests to get answers, but I love that data-driven information because it's a way to measure. And I think when you can measure that, then it gives people hope and belief that they're moving in the right direction.
Well, you can't manage what you don't measure.
Absolutely.
Right? Tell me, just give me a highlight of some of the basic markers that, because I think you've asked me to order certain tests, right? So I know some of the tests that you order or request is like, it's a little off the beaten path, right? But you just said there's literally lab results sitting in someone's portal, which means those are your basic labs that your PCP or GYN or urologist or somebody's check. So what are those levels that you're kind of looking for that can be like this aha moment, like a CMP or CBC, something like that?
Definitely. I mean, most people are getting that CMP and that CBC with differential.
Yeah.
That's really important. A lot of these physicians don't order the with differential.
Yeah.
And that was a huge piece of the puzzle for my particular journey with mold illness. I'll kind of go into that in a second. But, you know, really even just those two markers right there, along with possibly a lipid panel, maybe even an iron panel, is a lot of times those iron panels are ordered for women, especially if they have heavy menstruation or there's really low energy. And so a lot of physicians actually will do the right thing and order that to just look a little deeper. Sometimes vitamin D is ordered, not always, but sometimes. And honestly, you know, a lot of people don't even want to use insurance these days anymore because some of those basic markers won't even be covered unless you've met your deductible.
Right.
So I love that, you know, you guys do that here and people just can kind of like a la carte, whatever they need to order. I will talk about the CBC with differential because there are so many things from looking at anemia to methylation to infection in the body in that one panel that is just mind-blowing. One of the things for me, and I just got some blood work done. You just ordered for me a couple of weeks ago and it came back and I said, Josh, my eosinophils have jumped up again. And I said, it's allergy season. And that those eosinophils for me will definitely shoot up. You know, we want to see those eosinophils just like in the functional world below a 3. And there was one time that I was so sick with mold illness and my histamine was so high that was at a 20.
Wow.
And nobody caught it. And I look back, and that was the one time somebody had ran blood work on me. And again, it was just kind of sitting in a portal that I had dug up, just trying to get some answers. And then finally went to school myself to figure it out. But that is just a really simple thing for somebody. I knew that there was something coming. That was like, it's kind of like blood work is like, it's on the horizon. It's like those flags that kind of tell you something's down the road and you can kind of catch it and get ahead of it. So when I saw my eosinophils up a couple of weeks ago, I was already jumping on board with some quercetin and pounding some stuff that was going to help me get ahead of that versus what do most people do? They're behind it. By the time they come see you or me, they're behind it. And those are some easy things that people can look at. They can look at bacterial levels, viral levels, different loads in the body that are affecting different systems in the body right there in that CBC with differential.
Well, and the interesting thing you said was where that level had been sitting there, right? That lab result had been sitting there. Nobody had even brought it up. And because I came out of traditional medicine for 10, 11 years, I can tell you why. It's because nobody really knew what to do with it. So it wasn't, somebody probably saw it, and somebody dismissed it, right? Because eosinophils it's something, an allergy, it's some type of allergic response, and they're either going to give you a steroid or an antihistamine, but we dismiss it, right? We were like, all right, if the neutrophils aren't elevated or the monocyte, like I just know, to your point, it's like, yeah, that lab's sitting there, but actually having somebody who's got this understanding and what really is foundational, but you're looking at it just through a different lens, is where that's being missed in traditional medicine. All right, let's go to your story. I want people to understand, you said purpose out of pain. Walk us through Andrea Mangrum, starting in high school all the way to now, your journey of health and healing and how it's impacted who you are and why you do what you do.
Well, I'll start off by saying today's my dad's 78th birthday. And I actually give a lot of credit to what I do now to my dad because he was the one doing apple cider vinegar and local honey 30 years ago when people literally thought he was crazy, and he only did it in amber glass bottles because he had read some books and he just is always searching for knowledge. We grew up doing acupuncture on my shoulder when I had a softball injury. We went to the chiropractor. We were doing some of those things even in Kingsport, Tennessee, when I don't even know that people realized that there were people doing that back then. So it was always kind of in the back of my mind that there were other alternatives. And there were many years I went to school and had the attendance record. I never missed a day. So I really wasn't sick that much growing up. I even talked to my mom about it now because between me and my sister, we're trying to figure out some different variances between the two of us in our health. And my mom would remember that my sister, you know, she had mono, she had strep a lot and all these things, but my mom would be like, you really didn't get sick much. And so it became odd to me that I went off to college and then all of a sudden, like, I couldn't stay well. I was constantly injured as a college athlete. I mean, sure, there was a load on my body, but the more and more I got into my practice in holistic medicine, the more I got to thinking really back on every area of my life. and I started thinking back on emotions.
Yeah.
And so I like to say that there's something, it's either an immune imprint or an emotional imprint that happens on our lives. An immune imprint will happen a lot of times from these stealth pathogens. A really, really bad viral infection, and COVID kind of did this to a lot of people, but also babies have RSV, kids get mono, different things like that. These other stealth pathogens like strep and ear infections and things, when kids are little, nobody really thinks about the imprint it leaves on the immune system. But emotions do that too. And they kind of become our identity. Just like our immune system takes on the identity of strep, even if we're 45 and we haven't had it since we were 12, if it was never dealt with properly, right? So if I go in and get fingerprinted, that's how they're going to find me if they ever think they're on a crime scene and I had something to do with it, right?
Yeah.
Well, when I was 17, I was raped, ended up getting pregnant and had an abortion. And all of that happened in a really short span of my life, where I look back and it was very much a little blur. But I can kind of white knuckle things and put on a mask and just go to school every day and act like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And then I thought, well, I'm going to go away to college and I'm just going to get away from things, have a fresh start.
Yeah.
But I truly carried that weight and what happened physiologically to me through the abortion.
Yeah.
I mean, we could just stop right there and talking about what terminating a pregnancy does to the body. I mean, you literally just had hormones shoot up to be able to have a baby and hold on to a healthy pregnancy, and then you just cut the cord on it, right? And so that's some trauma on the body.
Yeah.
Then there was emotional trauma through that.
Yeah.
A lot of shame and unforgiveness. I was on a weighted vest walk this morning. I brought my 20-pound weighted vest with me.
Come on, girl.
And as I was walking and just praying about this podcast today, I felt God was just saying, Andrea, you've got to talk about the weight that you carried, because there are so many women out there that are carrying that as a secret, and it is robbing them of their health and relationships and all other things, right? So that is a huge part of my story too. You talked earlier about the whole blood aspect in my healing journey, and it really took after having my first miscarriage to realize I needed help, because I thought I was being punished by God for what I had done.
Yeah.
And my husband, who is such an incredible man of God,
Awesome guy,
said, that is not what this is. You're not being punished, just reassuring me. We finally had our daughter Harley, who's 14 now, and we're thankful for that.
And an awesome volleyball player.
Absolutely. But I think that when we don't heal, that we really carry that weight.
Yeah.
And it affected my central nervous system. And if we don't think that's affecting our immune system, we are really missing the mark.
Right.
So I go off to college and I get exposed to mold in the dorm rooms. Maybe if I was a healthy, emotional person that had not gone through that traumatic physical experience, I wouldn't have gotten as sick as I did. But when you really look back on it, I think so many times we just don't connect the dots.
Yeah.
And so when I connected the dots, now I work with so many people. I get to share my story to all my clients, and unashamedly, because I've been redeemed.
Yeah.
And I truly believe the scripture in the Old Testament that talks about what the enemy tried to destroy us with, God will use to save lives, and he'll use it for good.
For good, yeah. And
it's not just to, quote unquote, save lives and holistic medicine. It's truly to help people find freedom and forgiveness. And I just work with so many women that are walking in shame and unforgiveness, and I can't move the needle with them physically.
Yeah.
I had a client recently that I just had to tell her, I said, you've got to go get help.
Yeah.
You've got to deal with some past trauma and some pain and some emotions, because I can't move the needle with you physically until you do that.
So do you pull that out? I'd love to know kind of that process for you, right? You're looking at labs or other, diagnostic tools, but how are you able to navigate those stories? Because, I mean, just hearing, and I've known that story about you, right, to some degree. We've shared that before, but like it creates emotion in me for you, right? And so I'm just thinking, like, how do you navigate those really tough conversations with your clients?
I think if you ask the right questions, you get the right answers.
Yeah.
I think you guys do a great job on your intake form. I mean, I had to fill it out when I started becoming a patient, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's where people don't ever slow down in life to stop and really think back. And I get people to think back and they'll go, wait a minute, I did have a strep infection. And I remember then I had this like feeling, this silver feeling in my tooth, and they'll go, and then after I had my wisdom teeth out, like when you really get somebody to go back and retrace all their steps, I think when you ask the right questions, it really kind of opens up just that door of conversation. I don't really ever have a woman come into a first meeting with me and sit down and say, I had an abortion or I was raped or any of the two. But I think you can definitely see in blood work where the immune system is at. And you can also see just emotionally where an individual is at asking questions. And then you can kind of take that conversation and go as far as they're comfortable in going.
That's right.
But typically once I start breaking down their blood work and we really start talking about their past, they'll go, oh my gosh, that happened in like 1996. And then I remember in 98. And I'm like, well, what happened between 96 and 98? Anything you went through in life? And then they'll kind of start telling some more stories. It'll kind of start opening up some answers.
Well, it's so good. You know, I think about the reality is we all have a story, right? And we all have how that trauma is defined. But doing the work is not easy. You know, I've been, you know, going through my own process where I've got somebody, I spent 2.5 days in this house with this guy, and I mean, we ate together, you know, we cried together, we laughed together, and he walked me through the 10 highs and lows of my childhood from like 8 to 18. And I had always kind of, you know, positioned it, most of the responses that I have that I would think is shameful or, you know, compensating, really like centered around my father and him dying when I was 12. And in reality, it was like, as we navigated that for 2 days, it actually was not that at all. It had everything to do with me being the youngest child, and I was also the easiest child, and I had siblings who didn't always do things the same, the quote unquote right way, and my mom praised me for being easy. And as a result of that, I sought that approval, right? And so I'm like just being broken down about these things in my life, but I had to go back and like go through some really hard moments, you know? And I think that's what happens most of the time is like in a situation, it's like just keep it suppressed. Just keep it suppressed and it'll eventually go away. You know, it'll every now and then, but that's not freedom. And I love the fact that you purpose out of pain is like that ability to enter into the work that was required to recognize where that trauma comes from. Most people will never venture to go that route, you know? So it's so incredible to hear your story and just to think how far that's come. And that pain now has a purpose that impacts hundreds of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, I tell people all the time, I never have to do anything to really promote my business. And I'm thankful for that because I'm terrible at social media.
Yeah.
I'm just not a good salesperson in general. My business has been built 100% on referrals.
Yeah.
And I truly believe it's because I just get down on people's level and help them feel safe.
Yeah.
And I usually lead into sharing a lot about my junk and my life to help them know that like this is a safe place.
That's
and
right.
I've really screwed up but here I am on the other side, and like God's totally transformed my life and healed everything that was broken, and you know, created a space for it now in holistic medicine where I can share my story and have these platforms where it may look like I'm coming in as I'm going to analyze your blood work, but maybe God's got way more work to do outside of that.
Yeah.
And so I've loved that organic growth in my business has came literally just from people telling people, and it just continues to grow.
Well, because it's the right people coming in.
Yeah.
You know, when you do, you know, tons of marketing, I mean, the filter to actually get the right person, where if you've impacted that same person who now goes and tells their friends, well, there's probably a common, you know, framework around why they connect. And so then they're bringing in people who, you know, and again, some of the women I have sent you over the years, I mean, I know, and I always tell them, hey, this is way beyond my scope. I need to send you to somebody else because I know the work that it's going to require, you know, and that's something that I think you're really gifted at, and obviously you're well trained in. So it is, drawing in that.
you're not marketing to people, you're attracting people to you.
Right.
You know, and that creates like-mindedness.
Absolutely. I think I heard somebody say, it's been years ago, but it was like God's favor is so much greater than the grind.
Yeah.
And just truly surrendering your business to Him or whatever it is that you do in life, you know, and how, like you said, I'm not put on this earth to help everybody.
Yeah.
And there's a lot, and I refer a lot of people to you, right? Because that's not my scope either.
Right.
And I think that that's where people can miss the mark in doing kind of what we do, like alternative medicine, is they try to be all to everybody. And then they're trying to be a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's really watered down. And I think that that's where people got to step back and drop their pride and say, hey, this is what I'm really good at. And if this is outside of my strength, then I need to have partnerships, right? That's what I've been grateful for with you guys here at Optimize You, is having those partnerships of trust to know if I send somebody over here to work with one of your people, they're going to get well taken care of.
Yeah. Well, tell us, so we've kind of talked about the story. Tell me, when did you really start your practice? How long ago has it been? You know, how do you frame your practice as far as you start with labs? Like, I'd just love to kind of hear the process.
So I was doing the fitness and nutrition stuff for a long time.
Okay.
I was a Division I softball coach, you know, at East Tennessee State University, and ended up losing that job. Right back in 2010, I got fired for not winning enough games, supposedly. And
Probably the grind too.
I look back on that, and I'm just like, man, my husband and I were living 5 hours from each other, coaching at 2 different D1 universities, and it was not good for our marriage, and it was not good for a lot of things. And so I think, honestly, I was really stubborn, and God was like, okay, Andrea, if you're not going to listen, I've given you enough signs. I'm just going to have to tell you it's time to go.
Take this into my own hands.
So at that point, I kind of had a fresh start. I mean, you know, all I ever knew was being a college coach, but I had always been passionate about fitness and nutrition. So I started training athletes and really kind of focusing in on that. But when I started working with adults, I realized that I just could not move the needle with fitness and nutrition alone. And it became very frustrating. I'm sure you probably experienced that too, right? And I'm like, man, she's eating so clean, she's working out, she's doing all the things, but like I cannot move the needle with this lady.
Yeah.
And so during that time, I had still been battling my mold illness kind of back and forth as well. And I just thought to myself, this can't be it. There's more to this than just food and working out.
Right.
My dad had also gotten diagnosed with Lyme disease. This was about 10 years ago. And back then, nobody was really talking about Lyme disease. And the only option for him was to go to this clinic. There was actually a clinic in Knoxville, but the wait list was like 6 months to get in. And it was way more than my parents could afford. And I was like, I have got purpose. I've got to help my dad.
Cool.
So I just started studying, and then I realized if I'm going to do this the right way, I need to get board certified. But, you know, holistic medicine can be a little tricky because it can almost be a little new agey.
New agey. I was going to say the same word.
It can be a little new agey.
Yeah.
So, you know, I looked at a couple of different options, and it just didn't resonate with my spirit.
Yeah.
And eventually I decided to go to, it's called Trinity School of Natural Medicine, but it's actually a Christian-based school, which was so cool.
Wow.
Because all my professors were faith-based, so we could have a lot of those conversations, you know. It just really helped me have that good platform to kind of establish things. And then after that, I went on to further my education and just learning more about certain infections and like mold and Lyme, some specific things that I knew I wanted to be able to focus on in my practice. And those were just slowly but surely learning how to analyze different panels, different tests, hair tests, stool tests, urine tests. And my business just kept growing because I just kept getting everything from a child to a grandpa that had anything you could imagine going on.
Right.
And so that's really how it grew that way organically, honestly, because people would say, oh my gosh, I heard that Andrea helped her dad with Lyme disease. And then my daughter got diagnosed with this really rare tumor, and I was able to kind of fight for the right testing for her so that we could figure out what was going on. And, you know, my struggles with mold. I mean, again, there was just purpose in all that because it was the people I love the most.
Yeah. I love your heart for the church around health, you know, something that I'm very passionate about. And one of the reasons I'm very passionate about that particular audience is because as a believer, I've been a believer for many years. And to me, the church should be the example, right? We should be
the design, no other group of people should have a greater purpose in life than the body of Christ. And I see so many believers really just diminish the physical aspect of their bodies. They don't exercise. They don't prioritize sleep. They don't prioritize their health, and they do it in the name of, well, this body's fleeting, right? And for me, I think the quote that preach the gospel at all times and when necessary use words. And for me, I think how we treat this temple is a great example of how the gospel can exude out of your life. If you just show that you honor the greatest gift you've ever been given, which is breath in your lungs, that you actually honor that. And not only do you honor it, but by doing so, the ability to make a greater impact for a longer period of time is exponentially better. And so I love how you're bold in your faith. I love how that is an audience that, and it's not that that's all you treat, nor do I, but it's like that's a group of people that I feel very called to, because I think we should be the people taking the best form of health to the marketplace.
Yes.
Right. Talk to me a little bit about, with holistic, and the new age is kind of comical to me because that is exactly the stereotype. It's a generalization because it's generally true. So I love that you kind of you see it for what it is. But one of the things that I know with holistic medicine, and just the assumption is, oh my gosh, I'm going to be on 50 different supplements. This is going to taste terrible. It's almost like I don't even want to go down that path because, right? How do you navigate, supplement protocols, lifestyle with your treatments?
I love that you said that. Actually, Stephanie was in here a minute ago and we were talking about women that really struggle with their hair thinning.
Yeah.
And I get that a lot in my practice.
Me too.
Most of them that come to me, they're taking everything they've seen on Instagram. Like everything that somebody's promoted or a friend's told them about, they're trying it. And it's usually either a placebo effect or it is a situation to where maybe they got a little bit of a benefit from it, but then it went away, right? And they're on 14, 15 different things, spending a lot of money. I mean, most people that come to me, that's where it's at. And it's crazy when they start working with me and they're like, wait a minute, how am I going to, this is all I need? How am I going to get better?
Right, right.
But I think I do a great job by when I analyze their blood work and I speak to them in a language that they understand. And I say, you're going to cut out X, Y, and Z because of this. And this is what actually has happened. You've actually created an imbalance in your body by taking all these multivitamins, all these things that you don't even know that you need because you're just taking them because you read somewhere that you need them. Right. Now you've actually created an imbalance in your body. We got to correct that. And so I have to pull them off things to try to balance out that seesaw.
Yeah.
Because we talk about like less is more a lot and how you got to slow down to speed up. But most people just think, because what do we know in conventional medicine? Well, that statin's not working. Increase the dose. Right. Increase the dose.
Add
increase the dose.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what most people know. So then they think increase the dose, meaning take more magnesium, take more multivitamin, more vitamin B, whatever it is. And they don't understand, why is the body not utilizing the dose that you're already taking? You got to go beneath the surface and figure out that adjustment first. How healthy are your cells? How healthy is the tissue? Where is your gut at? What can you absorb, right? So I think when I explain it in that way, people are like, oh man, yes. Now I'm only taking 5 or 6 things. And I use a mix of homeopathic medicine. I love homeopathy. I could talk about homeopathy for days because that was medicine before it is what we know it is now. I mean, that is what the kings and queens used. Why do you think the wealthiest people in the world could use whatever they wanted and they chose homeopathy? There's so much in nature and how the signaling of the body and the way that our body's wired energetically that people don't understand. Homeopathy is actually just helping the body signal the way God created it to.
Right.
Whereas supplements are actually supporting something.
That's right.
And you need both.
Yeah.
I think you need both, right? But if you just support with supplements and you don't adjust the signaling with homeopathy, then you can make the body dependent on something because you never corrected the signaling, which you get that with all you guys do with hormones and stuff, right? So I do a mix of that, but my protocols are so simple. And I think it's all about layering things in. And the way I structure most of my stuff is we know that cells live about 120 days in the body if they're healthy, right? And I need to see full cellular turnover. So I need an initial 4-month commitment so I can see full cellular turnover, kind of cleaning up the body, giving it some support before I really even know where the body is at.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they don't want to hear that.
No.
But I like to say it's like running little mini, don't think about it as a marathon. We're running little mini 5Ks.
Yeah.
A little 4-month 5K, and we're going to assess where the body's at. Then we're going to run another 5K, and we're going to assess where the body's at. And every time we do that, we're going to listen to the body.
Yeah.
We're not just going to jump to the next phase because it's time to jump to the next phase. We're going to do it because there are signs that tell us it's time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say, like, systematically, I focus a lot on the beginning of making sure minerals are strong because that's our voltage for us to be able to do the demands that we're going to ask the body to do. I don't jump straight into detoxes and parasite cleanses and all this stuff because it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And if the body's not open and draining, where's that stuff going to go anyway?
Yeah, right.
So I focus on a lot of that on the front end and just kind of like building the house, right?
Yeah.
Look at the blood work, give that foundation the body needs strength-wise. Then everybody looks a little different. We're going to layer in as they need.
So, because I think a lot of people, and you did a good job of defining homeopathy, give some people practical examples, because I think some of the audience would be like, exactly what does that look like, right?
Yeah.
So when you talk about homeopathy, what are some practical things that you're doing for that patient in that framework?
So I use a lot of tinctures that help with drainage, and I use a lot of homeopathics for that. And so if I've got somebody that comes to me and their liver's really jammed up, instead of just like jumping on something like milk thistle, I'm going to actually start with a homeopathic product that's actually going to help drain the liver through signaling and help clear some stuff with those detox pathways on the liver, just kind of open it up. So, and when you think about homeopathics, I mean, we're using nature. I mean, what did we do thousands of years ago before we had medicine? I mean, we use nature. Yeah. We use things of the earth that are what I would consider like compounds of similar things in the body. So it's like cures like. Okay. So when you think about homeopathy, that's what we're doing. So we're trying to match that in the body with something from nature to say, oh, liver, drain. Yes, I know I need to do that. I just got so jammed up from all those antibiotics or birth control or medications or heavy metals and toxins. And then we kind of remind the body what it was supposed to do by giving it some of these things from the earth. And the liver is just one example. I mean, I get people that need drainage in lots of pathways. Maybe it's their gut, their bowels. And instead of just giving them some kind of magnesium to just kind of push the bowels, we want to help the bowels do the job on their own. Yeah. And so homeopathy can really help with that. The other thing I love homeopathy for is things like adrenals. So again, it's that signaling with those glands and really supporting the adrenals minerally versus maybe just jumping into a supplement. And so the signaling aspect is a lot of cellular stuff. I talked about cells earlier. I love to do cellular cleanup. So when I think about a detox, I don't think about the kidneys and the bowels. I actually think about head to toe. Interstitial fluid, the cells need to have cleanup, right? Because you know this with hormone work. If the hormones can't get into the cell, what are we doing? And what if the cells have a crust over them because they're damaged from a virus or bacteria or fungus? And it's like getting in the body and kind of cleaning up the cellular health. I use a lot of homeopathics to do that. And then I'll kind of come in and support the body other ways, like we talked about with supplements. But even like this time of year when people are sick, I have homeopathic drops that we'll use to help with like viral load or bacterial load. Like if we get strep or if we get some kind of bacteria infection, we're immediately jumping on some of these homeopathics to really kind of help, like a natural antibiotic, right? Or a natural antiviral.
Let your body fight.
To really kind of help that signaling to just let the immune system do its job.
Where do you tend to source your tinctures?
I work with a company called Desert Biologics out of Utah, and Des Bio, when I was in school, we studied homeopathy a lot, and we had a chance to look at a lot of different companies. I was really attracted to them because of their Lyme protocol initially to help my dad. They've been doing it for over 2 decades, and they've been doing it really well. So I actually have kits that I can use to address things like strep, Lyme, mold, mono, I mean, Epstein-Barr, I mean, any kind. If I've got somebody that's really dealing with some of those things, I need to move the needle there to kind of help them get better, then they've got some incredible kits that I can use, and I can just take somebody through those protocols and address those specific drivers kind of underneath the surface.
So good. Speaking of being under the weather, you told me before you got here that you're a little under the weather, so and you've been fighting it. So what's Andrea Mangrum's protocol besides your tincture?
Well, let me tell you that
it's a cheat code for everybody watching.
I know. Let me tell you that for years I just popped a Zyrtec during allergy season. And after about 15 years of doing that, I realized that was suppressing my natural histamine response. I mean, histamine, just like inflammation, is not a bad thing.
Right.
It's actually an alarm God gave our body to tell us, hey, something ain't right. Right. So let's not just suppress it. Let's just listen. So I use a lot of things. Like, I love nano silver. I mean, silver's been around as a healing agent for a long time. So we will stay on silver this time of year anyway, just kind of as a preventative. And then we'll kind of up that dose if somebody in the house really comes down with something. Okay. I love draining the sinuses, so sinus rinses. And I think it is not the sexy thing to do because people are like, oh man, but it is one of the best things. Because think about it, what are we doing every day? We're breathing this stuff in. Yeah. So if we can clear those pathways morning and evening, I love to add things like liquid iodine or even the silver to the distilled water and the saline that's in there. That's huge to keep that cleaned out. And heaven forbid somebody had their tonsils taken out, because that was actually your little filter that filtered a lot of those things that create the histamine, those allergens from coming in. So people that don't have tonsils, they got to be way more proactive because they don't have that little filter to kind of grab that as they're breathing stuff in. And then outside of that, I mentioned the homeopathics, but I just love to use supplements that really help with histamine. So bromelain, quercetin, stinging nettle, like a lot of those kind of things. And then on top of that, it really kind of depends on my specific symptoms, but I'll definitely load up that vitamin C. I'm not scared to go crazy high with that dose this time of year either.
Yeah. Listen, okay, so we talked about women. Your husband is a high-level D1 baseball coach. Super, travel, stress. I mean, every time I talk to him, I'm like, what hotel are you in? Yes. So for the guys listening, right, what do you have your husband consistent? Like, again, I know his schedule is probably crazier than 90% of America. It's like he's in that group where they can't even celebrate a win because tomorrow he's got to start recruiting. I think that was the last time I talked to him. He's like, yeah, we made it to the World Series and now I've got to go recruit. Or tonight. Yeah, I mean, he's like, wait a minute, you don't get to celebrate? So like, talk to the guys of like, here's some things that, if anything is different than what you already do for yourself.
Well, first of all, my husband needs third-party credibility, which is why you help him. Yeah. And I connected him with you. Yeah. Because I will tell you that, he went in and got blood work done, and the guy that did his blood work said everything looked great, and his testosterone was really low. Yeah. I mean, it was like 500 points below where it should be. Yeah. And so that's the first thing I would say is you just need to, they need to have their blood work done, first of all. Most men won't go in and have that appointment annually. But I would say what ends up happening for me is I work with a lot of women. I end up working with their husbands. Yeah. Because the husbands end up going like, dang, she's really helped you. I want her to help me. You got to keep it simple. Yeah. If I tell my husband he's got to take 15 things, he ain't taking nothing. No. And so normally what I have to do is just sneak those tinctures or that nano silver into some water. Okay. And he don't even know it's there. Because it's pretty tasteless. Yeah. Or if he's mixing it with a powder that he uses for his energy or something like that, then I normally just have to kind of sneak it in there. But I think that when you can get ahead of some of this stuff and kind of stay on it, you don't have to be reactive. He got pretty sick, and he usually does every year during the season because it's the weather, the guys on the team everybody's run down, and it goes through the locker room really quick. So as soon as we see stuff coming through the house and I know that the guys have been sick, then immediately, I mean, the nano silver is a game changer. I have him on that pretty consistently anytime he's dealing with anything because that's one of those things that's pretty easy because it tastes like water. And where do you get that? I have a company called SilverCeuticals. Okay. Yeah. I'm assuming just like any supplement, the product, like the supplier matters, right? Nano silver is so important because it's not just colloidal silver. Yeah. You can go a lot of places and get just colloidal silver. Nano means the particle size is so small it won't build up in the body, and it's just way better utilized in the body because of the particle size.
Yeah.
So yes, you know me, I did my research.
I'm sure you did.
Partnered with a company that has actually been family owned for decades, doing the silver thing way before it was even popular.
Yeah.
So it's a small company out in Utah. I actually get a lot of my suppliers are there because, you know, they can mine a lot of this stuff and get like even the salts and stuff like that in the mountains in Utah. And so that's a really cool place to get stuff just because they have a lot of that nature that's kind of been untouched with the resources. Yeah.
Well, you were talking earlier about with protocols how you know, people come in and they're on 15 different things for hair loss. And your approach is, how do I simplify? How do I remove things, build the base? And, you know, and I think one of the things, and this is why we do what we do here with this podcast and bringing people on like you, is it's so interesting to me how in medicine, you know, we have this desire to, you know, kind of slap Band-Aids on people, but people want to see improvement, right? And then when you're frustrated, and, you know, for our culture now, I think COVID really kind of created a lot of awareness for businesses like yourself and ours. But when people are frustrated, what I've noticed is that there's been this kind of swing where it's like, we want nothing to do with medicine, traditional medicine, and now we're going to swing over here. And now, because we didn't trust this audience, but now what's happened is we swung over here, but now we trust all these influencers who call themselves gurus. And the reality is they have affiliates with all these companies, and so they are just peddling products, right? And so to hear somebody who's in your space actually have the approach of like, I try to get them off things. I mean, like, to me, that is instant credibility for somebody in your space, because you have a practice just like we do. We could make a ton of money off of affiliates and sponsorships and, you know, connecting. And it's just like, I don't want to ever see that now my desire to help somebody is even questioned. That, well, what am I getting out of this? Like, if we serve you and we take care of you, fine. There's money for, you know, enough money to go around, right? But as far as, like, I think that's what is so frustrating in that, call it holistic or this natural world of supplements. And, you know, it's like, how many products can somebody try to sell, right? So I just love your approach. And I also think people need to hear that, right? Because they're so dialed in over here thinking, well, I'm going to listen to all these gurus and your Instagram. And again, social media is not, I mean, it knows what it's doing. It knows as soon as you buy that biotin, you're getting ready to get inundated with every other hair product, and you're going to sit there and click on it, you know, and you're going to buy it. And so anyway, just that approach is really cool of how you do that.
Wouldn't you rather just spend $147 and get your blood work analyzed and know what you need?
Right, yes.
Before you spent $150 on some random supplement.
Right.
It just makes sense.
Yes.
I think sometimes people don't actually want to know what's really going on.
Well, and it's a desperation.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I think when you've got a desperation where they just want to feel better, but they don't trust this system, we just naturally want to say, well, we want to trust someone. And again, it's almost what I tell people this all the time. When I first kind of got out of the traditional setting, it was really kind of easy to identify who the initial, call it enemy, right? Big pharma, traditional medicine, and again, those things have their place. I'm not here to say that I don't appreciate it. From a prevention standpoint, I think they're off in many ways. From an interpretation of what is normal versus optimal, I think they're off in several ways, right? But we've just kind of created this system, and so we've had this enemy that was kind of easy to identify, and now it feels like my enemy has shifted to where it's like, oh my gosh, if I watch one more video of somebody telling me to go buy this, whatever, fill in the blank, I'm going to lose my mind. And what I think why I'm so passionate about that is because I have to deal with the consequences, right? I've the number of people who've come to me and said, well, I watched this video and they said if I took this supplement, it would fix my testosterone or my estradiol levels or whatever, fill in the blank. And it's just not true, right? I mean, I'm not saying that some things can't help, but it's just not true. They just want to sell you a product. And it's the same thing where it's like, it's just not true. If you don't open up the flow and allow the cells to receive a supplement, which is a support, then you're just wasting money.
Right.
So any last parting thoughts or audiences that, messages you want to get out there?
I just think the truth will set you free, and truth is by actually seeing what's going on in your body.
So good.
And I think a lot of people honestly are scared to know the truth sometimes. I get a lot of women that are very fearful.
Yes.
And so I tread lightly in those situations to make sure it's not about fear-mongering into doing a protocol.
No.
And it's always about just educating and actually bringing clarity.
Yeah.
And then I tell people when I get off with them, I want you to go talk to your spouse. I want you to pray about this. And if you're really ready to go, let's do this. But I don't want you to tell me yes right now just because you're emotional.
Yeah.
I want you to really, because this is a commitment.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't understand there is no finish line. The finish line is when we get to heaven one day.
That's right.
So why would we think we're going to heal in 4 months what we've been dealing with for 20 years?
Right.
People have to have patience and understand that this is a journey for the rest of their life. Yeah. I'm not saying you're going to be doing the same thing for the goal is that we get the body turned around and working better. And then usually we even pull off some of those other products and we just maybe need a few things to just kind of stay the course, right? But I think that that's where a lot of people miss the mark too. Because the valley of disappointment. When you first start off on something and you don't meet an expectation and you dip into the valley of disappointment and then people just quit.
Yeah.
And that valley of disappointment is in relationships, it's in your healing journey, it's in everything. Yeah. You got to just understand it's something you're going to work on for the rest of your life.
Well, I mean, and again, I can say this to the listeners because we've worked together now for probably 3 years. And I mean, your protocol was all over the place and we did not nail it right out of the gates.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, but you understood. So just knowing that you, as a patient, I've watched you also put in that work, have the realistic expectations. And the reality is too, because life changes, that there's seasons when actually it was great for 6 months and now we've got to make another adjustment, right? And that's just part of the process. And it's part of stepping into that, not putting so much weight on somebody like you and saying, hey, you got to fix me. But really, I've got to take some ownership too. I got to deal with some of that deeper work. I got to exercise. I got to actually prioritize my sleep. I can't say, well, this didn't work. Andrea's a kook or Josh is a kook. Well, actually, self-awareness and saying, could I have done some things differently too, right? And I just think that's incredible and very valuable. And so again, I can say for people working with you, I've watched you on this side of it where it's like, she does the work. Right? You practice what you preach. You are not somebody who's super frustrated when disappointment hits you. You just say, hey, let's keep working. Let's keep dialing it in. Let's, what do you think about this? I actually kind of love working with you because you're like, hey, can I check this lab? And sometimes it's labs that you probably know more about than I do, right? But I think it's great because you're just so invested in your own personal journey, which means you're going to invest in other people the same way.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for driving all the way to Chattanooga. I know it's halfway, so you get to hang out with your dad. I got to tell a real quick story. We were talking, I think, a couple months ago about this. Going back to your dad, who I adore and love. Your dad was probably one of the first entrepreneurs. Yeah. I think as I look back on my journey, I just remember number one, you guys always drove the coolest cars. Yeah. And I'm like, where'd you get? And it was always like the dealer tag, but you just had the coolest cars growing up. And then I'll never forget, like I went over to his shop one time and he's like, hey, you got to look at this bat. And he had invented this bat speed, which was 25 years ago, way ahead. And, and it's like, this is crazy and cool, but nobody, and now I look at where things like that, I mean, everybody checks their bat speed now, but your dad 25 years ago had created something in his garage and it was like the craziest thing. So anyway, he's probably, who knows how many things that guy's invented over the years.
I mean, he definitely told me as a kid, if you believe it, you can do it.
Yeah.
And, I'll die trying.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of different things in life, but I'm thankful that my dad just honestly instilled that passion within me to go after my dreams.
Love that.
Being the first girl out of Sullivan North High School to play Division I college softball, like just anything really. And so even with what I do today, like I owe him so much for just what he poured in, that belief he poured into me that really helped me believe that I could do anything, even if somebody thought I was an idiot. So
thank you so much for being here today. Before we end, tell me how people can find you, website, contact, things like that.
So on Instagram, the Blood Work Analyst. And my website is thebloodworkanalyst.com. I just try to keep it simple.
That's really good.
That's what people know me as, the Blood Work Analyst, so why not find me there on social media or on my website?
I love it.
Yeah.